Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Tuesday, September 24th, and this is episode 54 of Azeroth United. We have a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about delves, and more delves. We're gonna do a little bit of a deep dive on the new delve system and talk about really who the delves seem to be for, the ups and downs of delves, and really are delves so far a success in the War Within. We're also going to talk about the news. We've got some Season of Discovery news. We've got some patch 11.05 anniversary news. Lots to talk about. So pull up a chair, sit back, and relax. And as always, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast, or if you have a particular topic that you would like to hear discussed, please email us at azerothunitedpod@gmail.com. Also, if you're so inclined, if you're enjoying the show and you're so inclined, please consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps out our distribution. So, if you wouldn't mind doing that, I would be very grateful. If you are watching us on YouTube, please give us a like and a subscribe. That would be awesome. So thank you very much. Before I get into the news, I just wanted to do a quick, and I say quick, we'll talk about what I got up to last week in World of Warcraft, and some of the ups and downs. I did. So first off, my raid did normal Nerebar Palace. We got through 6 of 8 bosses. We got to Silken Court, and it was a struggle. We couldn't get the webbed mechanic down, or the web. So if you haven't done the fight yet, basically the boss burrows underground. One of the big bosses burrows under the ground, and then he charges across the room, and you have to step on one of the webs, and 2 players have to step on it next to each other, and then separate the web apart and put that in front of the boss's path, which he's telegraphing. So when he charges, he hits the web and it stuns him, and then you can do mad damage to him. We had a hard time getting that mechanic just right. We could do it, but it was inconsistent, and there was a lot of damage going out. So I think people were really struggling with the moving from one thing to the next very quickly, because you have to move fast. So we tried it a couple different ways, and we did make some progress. We got to the second intermission, but we couldn't really get past that. So, so that was fun. I enjoyed Nerebar Palace. I think it's a good raid so far. I'm really happy with it. And so, the goal right now is that we're going to try and get through the whole raid this week. And if we can do that, obviously we'll start on Heroic. If not, I think we're going to just try the first boss Heroic next week, if we're still struggling with Silken Court or Ansarek. But hopefully we should be able to get through everything. I mean, everyone's gear is a lot better. People have been doing Mythic Plus and having upgrades from there. So we'll see how that goes. I will report back next week. I did 1 keystone. No, that's not true. I did 2 keystones. I only finished 1. I did the Mists of Tyrannus Scythe +2, and the group could not complete the mechanic on Mistcaller. So I don't know what it is about that fight. I hated it in Shadowlands. I hate it now. But yeah. So if you remember from Shadowlands, Mistcaller will have a bunch of arrows that she points out, and you have to dodge the attack in the direction of the arrow. So just stand next to where the arrow's pointing. We were struggling with that. So, I mean, I wasn't struggling with that, but but the group was. So, I would try and position the boss so that it was not pointing at people, but people being people were not able to get out of the way if it was pointing at them. So that's unfortunate. We didn't finish that key. I did a +3 Necrotic Wake, which, man, that place is a beast. We did not time it, but we did finish it. So there's at least that. People were really struggling with the hook mechanic on the 3rd boss, which, again, they struggled with that back in Shadowlands. So this is not anything new. This is how it's been going for the last 4 years or whatever. But I mean, it's whatever. It's fine. I don't like either of those dungeons. I don't hate them, but I don't really like either of them. Like I would never just like, oh, yay, it's Necrotic Wake, yay, woo. So anyway, I don't know. It's fine. But what I did the most last week was delves. I did a lot of delves. What did I do? I did 6 plus 8s. I did like 8 plus 7s. I did a bunch. I did delves on my alts. I did delves on my characters that I'm still leveling. I mean, I was just having a blast with the delves. The delve system, I just at its core, I think is a great idea. But we'll get into the details and the specifics of delves in a little bit. But I got so many upgrades from delves, champion pieces that, it was great. Yeah. So here's the one thing, and I talked about this a few weeks ago, or a month or so ago. Anyway, it was talking about the end game leveling bands, for lack of a better term, and the delve end game leveling band is definitely that champion 1 through 4 area, where basically, so if you look at the end game rewards from normal raid, Mythic plus 2, 3, and delves up through 7, they all give you. You're going to get the same, or you're going to max out your rewards at champion. You're going to be able to get champion 4 of 8 because you won't be able to get the runed Harbinger crest. The runed Harbinger crest drop from a plus or a tier 8 delve, a plus 4 keystone and above, and a heroic raid. So what that means is, if you're not doing any of those 3 pieces of content, that's pretty much your max is going to be 606, because that's as high as you can upgrade with the carved Harbinger crests. If you have veteran gear, you can max it all the way to 606. So veteran gear is actually just as good as champion gear if you're not getting that better rune. If you are getting that better rune from other content, then yeah, obviously you're going to want to upgrade. But even still, then there's the next level of rune, which is the gilded Harbinger crest. So yeah, if you're able to do like a plus 4 keystone, or if you're doing some bosses in heroic raid, then yeah, you'll get some hero pieces and you'll upgrade those, and you'll get 619 will be your new cap. And that's fine. If that's the content you're doing, then that's the best. That's the gear you need. You don't need better gear than that. It might be fun to get better gear, sure, but you don't need it. You don't need super crazy gear to do a plus 8 delve, or the first 4 bosses of heroic raid. They're hard, but they're not that hard. So yeah, I think it's very clear that Blizzard has created these barriers for a reason. They want people to be forced into certain content, and they don't want you trying to get something that's impossible for you to get. Like if I really wanted carved Harbinger crests and I was trying to run plus 4 keystones, I'm going to struggle with that, because I haven't tanked a lot of keystones. I did a lot of tanking in Shadowlands, but in Dragonflight I didn't do a whole lot. So this is all kind of new, or it's a new experience, something that I haven't done for the past couple of years. So I guess really what it boils down to is stay in your lane, for lack of a better term, and not in the you can't progress up. But if that's all you are planning to do, then you have to learn how to be happy with that content. So if you're like, hey, I'm going to do some delves, and I'm going to do maybe a plus 2 keystone here or there, and normal raid, you're never going to get much beyond 606. You might get a few points here and there because you'll get some hero pieces in the vault, but ultimately you can't upgrade those. I guess you can convert all of your carved crests to runed crests, but it's a 6-to-1 conversion rate. So that's a lot of crests that you have to farm to get one upgrade. Anyway, so yeah, I had fun with the delves, but it did really make it clear to me that, okay, this is my spot right now. I'm trying to move it up to the next one. So I'm going from the 606 band to the 619 band. But I don't know. I guess we'll see. The other thing that I did was I did a couple of Timewalking raids, which, man, I love the Timewalking raids. And I'm really looking forward to the Blackrock Depths raid in the 20th anniversary event that we're going to get in patch 11.0.5. Because doing the doing the Black Temple raid, it's easy. You can just burn through it. Although on one of my characters, it took us like an hour and a half because people were bad. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, it's pretty fast. You can knock it out in like 45 minutes. And then you might get a couple of champion drops in the raid. And then if you'll get the kill 5 Timewalking raid bosses or 5 Timewalking dungeons. So that'll get you a piece of champion gear from Nerebar Palace. And then you'll also get the quest to kill Illidan, and then you have to loot something off his body, and that will get you a hero piece from any of the Burning Crusade raids. So, I mean, it's a pretty cool deal just to get you some gear and some items. So especially on like an alt, if you've got an alt that is maybe wearing all adventurer gear and you're like, what do I do with this alt? I can't run anything except for heroics, and I'm bored with that. And yeah, Timewalking raid, when it comes around, obviously we got to wait for the next one, which will be the Wrath of the Lich King in 3 weeks. But yeah, the Timewalking raids are great. It's a great use of time. If you have a guild, like a raid group who maybe you finished Nerebar Palace, or maybe you're like we're stuck at 6 out of 8, Timewalking raid is a great way to go. So get everybody some gear, it's a lot of fun. So yeah, that's pretty much all that I got up to last week. Like I said, I did a lot of stuff. I got the Druid to, I think he's like 75 now. I did switch him back to Resto and try to heal a dungeon. And man, the Timewalking dungeons are brutal. And I don't know from the normal dungeons yet, because I haven't healed any normal dungeons or anything above that. But especially for the Resto Druids, healing's gonna be rough. It's gonna be a little rough. So I don't know. He might stay Guardian for now, or maybe I'll switch him back to Boomkin like he was back in the old days. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on in the game, and I'm really having a good time. There's Dragonflight was so exciting, and we look back on it, I think, very fondly, because it changed the game tremendously from Shadowlands. And previously, there was no compelling reason to log into the game other than I want to have fun. You're like, I want to do Mythic Plus. I want to do a delve. I've got my raid night. I want to go do world quests. Back in the old days, back in BFA Legion era, it was like, I have to go farm. I have to go grind Azerite power. I have to go grind artifact power. I've got to go farm anima in Shadowlands. I mean, or Torghast. Oh God. See, that was the thing. Delves are fun because we're not required to do it, and we get actual gear at the end of it. Torghast gave us no gear, and we were required to do it to get our legendaries. It was just a bad implementation, and I think Blizzard learned their lesson, and they were like, hey, the delves are going to be fun. But like I said, we'll get into more details on delves later. But yeah, I really like the gameplay system right now, because I feel like, yeah, I'm not required to log on. I'm not missing out if I don't log on. The only thing you're missing out on is you're not getting your coffer keys. And it's like, I mean, ultimately, how many coffer keys do you need? Because you know what? I complained about the lack of coffer keys on a previous episode, and turns out you don't really need them, because once you've got all your champion gear, you're pretty much done. You could just run regular delves, non-bountiful delves, and you still get great vault credit. So if you run tier 8 of Fungal Folly because it's your favorite, and you just run that 8 times, you'll get your Great Vault filled up, and you don't have to use the coffer keys. The coffer keys are only if you want a piece of gear, for a tier 8, a piece of champion gear at the end of the run. That's it. That's all you're getting. And I guess you get a couple of other things from the Bountiful chest, but ultimately, you're not really missing out on a whole bunch if you don't do your coffer keys. So I think all the people who are like, save your keys, and it's like, yeah, that was great, but now that that's over, it's like, who really cares? So, yeah, that's kind of my take on that. I think I'm really happy with the War Within, and in a lot of ways, I feel like Dragonflight gave us that initial blank template of, hey, here's just an expansion where you can go do stuff. And we don't have any requirements. There's no borrowed power. Just go have fun. Just go do whatever content you like. And we're not going to force you to do any of it. And I think the War Within is taking that same concept, but it's more refined. It's maybe a little more cleaned up. Dragonflight was a little rough around the edges at times. So, I'm really having a good time, and I'm really liking the expansion. I'm really liking I love the story. The story is great. We'll talk about, I'll probably do a little bit of a story episode here in the next week or so, where we'll talk about the story and where it's taken us so far and where it might be going. Because the story it's getting good. So I think that pretty much wrap up the what I did last week. Wow, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but honestly, that's what it is. I mean, this expansion, there's just so much to do, and you just find yourself, you're winding. All of a sudden, you're like, I don't even know where I am, and this is cool quest here, and this is a guy I'm talking to, and he wants me to go do this thing, and I'm like, okay. It's really fun. I'm really happy with where the game is right now, and I think Blizzard has hit a home run. If people were like, well, I liked Dragonflight, but I didn't like the story. I mean, the War Within is just taking that and been like, okay, how about this cool story? And they're like, oh yeah, I actually like this story. So, all right, so that's enough of that. We've got a lot to talk about. We're just gonna get right into it.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, so let's start off with Classic, because the Season of Discovery Phase 5 is going to launch on Thursday, September 26th. It's a couple days from now as I'm recording this. This one looked pretty good. This is Blackwing Lair. This is Zul'Gurub. Blackwing Lair, that's one of the classic raids of all time. I've always loved Blackwing Lair. I love running it as a for transmog. It's just a really cool thematic raid. Yes, there's the suppression room, but had some pretty unique boss fights, especially for vanilla, if you think about it. It had really iconic gear with the tier 2 sets. Blackwing Lair is just a great raid. I'm really excited about this. I mean, I'm obviously not playing Season of Discovery, but for the people who are, this is really cool. And I hope Blizzard gets it right with the new mechanics and things. So, and then Zul'Gurub is always a great, Saturday night, crack open a beer and raid with your crew. Zul'Gurub was fun back in the day. So, all right, let's go through this. Blackwing Lair, 20 to 40 player raid. So it's tuned for 20. The loot is for 20, but you can take up to 40. You won't get any extra loot if you go above the 20 player limit. But it's fine if you have 23 people in your guild that want to raid, you can take them all. You only get loot for 20, or based on 20 people, but it's okay. You distribute the loot as you see fit. And, it's a good way to bring in people who who don't need anything. It's like, just come in and DPS stuff. It's like, okay. It's not like they're taking up a slot for somebody who could require gear because you're going up to 40. So, there will be new mechanics in Blackwing Lair. So that's pretty cool, I guess. Excuse me. I know that some of the Molten Core mechanics were not great. People didn't love how they worked. It's not super complicated, but it is what it is. You make new mechanics in a vanilla raid and it's going to be divisive. It's fine. So new mechanics in Blackwing Lair. There's going to be a new difficulty system similar to the heat levels in Molten Core, but this one will be based on the 5 Dragonflights. So whichever Dragonflights you activate is going to make it harder. Same thing with Molten Core, though. You won't get better loot. You'll just get more of the same loot. But it'll be a way to gear up a larger group of people, especially one who's really coordinated. You'll be able to get better gear faster. So, I think that's pretty cool. And then the tier 2 sets, they're going to follow the same mold that they did with the tier 1 sets, where they're giving different sets for different specs. So you'll get your Holy Paladin tier 2 set, your Ret Paladin tier 2 set, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously they're just going to look, I think they're going to look the same. I don't know. Maybe they'll have different colorations, but new tier 2 sets. Blackwing Lair is such a great raid. It's iconic. It's not iconic in the same way as Molten Core, because I think everyone did Molten Core at least at one point or another. But Blackwing Lair is it hits differently. I think it kind of expands on that Upper Blackrock Spire vibe where you feel like you're infiltrating this place, and it's just, I don't know, it's a really cool vibe. I really like the bosses. Nefarian's a great end boss. The fact that he's sitting on his throne, you have to go like argue with him to start the boss fight. It's just it's wonderful. I love Blackwing Lair. So that one is pretty cool. And then Zul'Gurub, so that's gonna be a 10-player raid that you can take up to 20. So 10 to 20 players on that one. Same thing, 10 players for loot, but up to 20 players for just bringing people in. I like 20 players Zul'Gurub, so whatever. It's I guess 10 will be fine. New mechanics in there as well. I think primarily for Hakar, but then they're also going to have the new difficulty system in there as well, and it's going to be based on the Zandalari priests. So I guess whichever priest you leave alive, it'll be like Ulduar if you 1 light, 2 light, 3 lights. If you get their blessings or what, I'm not sure exactly how that's supposed to work, but it'll be something akin to that. Basically like Ulduar hard mode. So. And then the Edge of Madness boss, which if you remember, this is the one like over on the side where you had to summon the boss, and it was a different one every week. And you might not be the one you wanted gear from. I think this one also gives the components for the trinket, for the class trinkets. So you can summon, now you can choose which boss you get instead of just getting a random one. So that way your guild can get on there and argue over which boss to bring, or which boss to summon. So that's pretty fun. It's always great when you give guilds a choice, and then it's like, well, who's going to choose what? Now you created an argument for no reason. Oh, Blizzard. Anyway, all right. So then we've got a new raid, which is the Crystal Veil. This raid will feature the one and only Prince Thunderin, and this will be where you go to complete your Thunder Fury Blessed Blade of the Windseeker quest line to get your legendary weapon. You can also do this if you don't have the quest line. You could just do this for loot, because he will drop just normal loot. So yeah, I mean, it's just adding a new raid. I love these little one boss raids that they've been putting in. It's world bosses, but they make them accessible to everyone, which I think is great, because if you play it on Classic, you know that only the best guilds were able to get those world bosses, especially in a PvP server. Oh my gosh, what a bloodbath. So I do like these little one boss raids that they're putting in, and I feel like it makes it, better. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with the Green Dragons. That should be the next phase. So, be really curious to see how they do that, because are they going to have 4 separate raids, or are they going to have one raid where you have to go and you summon a different dragon, or you have to fight all 4 of them? I'm just curious to see what they do. All right. So yeah, that's the new raid. There's going to be a new boss in the Demonfall Canyon dungeon. So if you remember, Demonfall Canyon is the dungeon in the southeast of Ashenvale that they added in for Season of Discovery. It is going to feature a new boss. I think it's a new Pit Lord boss. Don't know much about it yet, so we will see that on Thursday. They are streamlining the rune discovery, which, thank goodness, that's one of the reasons why I stopped playing Season of Discovery, honestly, is the runes were getting more and more difficult and complicated and expensive, and I was like, this is not fun. I don't mind having a small quest line, but don't make it so complicated and cumbersome and onerous that it makes me literally want to quit the game, and because it did. So yeah, new rune discovery streamlining. So they're calling it easier, but I don't know. I guess we'll see what that looks like as far as how they're going to implement that and how far they're planning to go, and on terms of the easy versus the difficulty that they've put into Season of Discovery so far. And then the other thing they're adding in, which I think is kind of cool, is bind on account items for your alts. So if you've already completed a rune discovery quest line, like the Dark Riders or something like that, it's kind of long and complicated, or just annoying. You can buy a bind on account item that you can send to your alt, so they don't have to do the quest line. They could just skip that quest line, which honestly is a lot like warbands. Warbands in Season of Discovery coming soon. So I think that's great. I'm really glad that the Classic team is listening to the feedback of the players and going, yeah, you're right, this is too complicated. Yeah, we're right, this is too annoying. I think it's great. So more runes is better, as long as they're not annoying to get. And again, I don't mind having the runes be difficult to get. I just think that difficulty level should maybe tune it down a little bit, or make one epic rune that is a crazy bonkers vanilla style quest line, and the other ones are all basic questions. Hey, go kill 7 boars. Oh, hey, go cook the boars. Oh, hey, here's a rune. Something like that. All right. There's new class specific items. They have not given us details on that, but I'm wondering if this is going to be like the Rockjalar Hunter Legendary Bow and the Benediction Priest, not Legendary, Epic Bow and Epic Staff. So if you remember from Vanilla, Hunters and Priests had these really cool quest lines that they could do to get an epic weapon that was really good, at least until Blackwing Lair. But I don't know if it's going to be that or if it's going to be something else, maybe something a little higher item level to make it more appropriate for Phase 5. I don't know. They're not giving us details. We're going to have to discover it. Get it? Discover, like Season of Discover. Never mind. Anyway, PvP system, they are raising the honor cap to 13. Man, they are really nickel and diming this, aren't they? It's just, no, we're not there yet. 13. So I guess it was 10 in the previous phase. Now we get to 13. I'm guessing we'll get to 15 in the Encourage phase or whatever. I don't know. I guess we'll see. And then you're going to earn Marks of Honor at a higher rate in Battlegrounds because they really want people doing Battlegrounds. Please, guys, do Battlegrounds. We really want you doing Battlegrounds. Okay. Thanks, Blizz. Yeah. It's you got to bribe players to do the content if you know the content's bad. I'm just saying, if you're bribing your players, you know the content's bad. It's like Delves, hey, look at all these great rewards that you can get, and we're going to make them even better than Mythic Plus rewards. Like, are you bribing us, Blizzard? Oh, Blizzard, are you bribing me? Oh, my goodness. And I don't mean that Delves are bad. I just think it's funny that Blizzard feels like they have to bribe players to do content. So, all right. Let's move on to Modern WoW. That's enough classic for today. So there's been a few hotfixes, and I generally don't like to sit and read hotfixes, but there's a couple things that I want to point out in this, and I will put the hotfixes in the show notes. So if you want to go check them out for yourself and look for specifics, you can. But the main things are Mythic Plus. They did a big tuning hotfix, and when I say tuning, I'm being careful not to say it was nerfs because they did nerf some things, but other things they just modified the way it worked. I think they're really just trying to clean things up because after seeing a week of Mythic Plus, they're like, okay, this isn't working the way that we want. Players don't like this. This is too complicated. This is too easy, whatever. So they're tuning. They've got all these little dials and knobs. I don't know why they do, but that's how they do it. I mean, they don't use computers. It's like a soundboard. No, they just, you've got to change the values and kind of evaluate. And you don't want to make it too drastic because you don't want players to suddenly it's impossible to do this keystone now, or it's so easy. This is the best keystone to do. You got to kind of take it nice and slow. And Blizzard has gotten really good at this in the last couple of years with Dragonflight and everything. On how to do these tuning hotfixes. So, this one is, I'm hoping this is good. We'll see. And they are actually making some changes to the Xalatath affixes as well. Again, they're just making little tuning changes to it. They, want it to behave a certain way. And so if it's not behaving exactly the way they want, they're going to make those changes. So, like I said, I'll put that in the show notes. You can go check all that stuff out. The Mythic Brood Twister in the Nerebar Palace raid is being nerfed. So they already nerfed the Nexus Princess because of the during the Race to World First because the guilds just couldn't kill her. So they had to nerf her a couple times. So I guess Mythic Brood Twister is getting his own little nerfs just to kind of move people along. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Race to World First here in a little bit. And then the other thing about the raid is they buffed the Vantus rune. So if you don't know what a Vantus rune is, it's a scroll that you can get from a scribe of somebody with inscription skill, and it's for the specific raid. And the way it works is you get your Vantus rune and you apply it to one boss per week. So if you decide, hey, we're progging on Brood Twister, and we're really struggling, we can't get over the hump. Everybody get out your Vantus runes and apply them to Brood Twister. So Brood Twister will get the buff for the week for everybody that uses their Vantus rune on Brood Twister. the advantage of this, obviously, is that it buffs you for that boss. The disadvantage of it is that you're not getting that buff for a different boss. So if you kill Brood Twister and you're like, oh man, I wish we had Vantage Runes for Nexus Princess or Silken Court, you won't. I mean, you won't until next week. You can use a new one next week, but anyway, the hotfix was people didn't like them because they were too low. Basically, the Vantage Rune, it buffs your versatility on that particular boss. So the 1-star Vantage Rune was 751 versatility, and the 3-star was 938. It's not super exciting. So they buffed those up. The 1-star is now 1500. The 2-star is 1700, and the 3-star is 1900. Now 1900 versatility is no joke. That's a decent amount of versatility. So I think that's better. I'm happier. That's more than double of what it was previously. So yeah, I think that's good. We used to use Vantage Runes in Dragonflight for Razageth when we were doing heroic Razageth, which I never killed. That's unfortunately, but yeah, that's what the Vantage Runes are for. So yeah, if you have a scribe that can make those, or if you know one, then it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you were planning to do the raid. I would say, especially if you're doing heroic or above, yeah, you're going to want a Vantage Rune. At least have one, so that when your raid leader says, hey, everyone get out your Vantage Rune, you don't stand there like an idiot going, oh, what's a Vantage Rune? So all right. The other thing that got hotfixed was the profession patron orders. So they cleaned up the patron orders a little bit so that they were a little bit more useful. So the patrons didn't always put in a lot of mats for their orders. They never put in all the mats. So they've changed it now. So sometimes you'll get all the mats. Sometimes you'll get most of the mats. Sometimes you'll just get some, and sometimes you'll get none. But that's fine because it's mimicking real world players. And then your rewards are, I mean, the rewards in there are great. I'm really happy with the rewards. The other thing that they changed was they lowered the quality requirements. So sometimes it'd be like, oh, you need to make a 3-star of this. And it's like, I can't make a 3-star. That's impossible. I literally don't have enough skill yet. So they reduced some of those down to make it a little more accessible to people. Because, yeah, there are people that can do 3 stars of some of those things. But, you know, for the normal person, really who the patron orders are for, I think that I think they need to be a little bit more accessible. I love the patron orders because I'm playing on a dead server or a dead server cluster. I play on Aerothor. It's like a 7-server cluster or 8-server cluster, and they're all dead. There's no crafting orders like ever. So yeah, having the patron orders has been great because I can go in there, I can craft stuff, I get my skill up, I get sometimes they give you knowledge points as a reward. I've had stuff that I couldn't craft on my own that they gave me some of the mats for that I could then you get a first time crafting benefit or bonus. So I really like the patron crafting system. It's not something that people have talked a lot about, but I'm glad to see Blizzard is kind of keeping an eye on it and making sure that it doesn't languish out there for people like me who are really struggling to get their crafting skills up. So, yeah, that's it for the hotfixes. Like I said, I will put those in the show notes. You can read through all the different hotfixes if you want to, but suffice it to say, Blizzard is making the game better. And that's pretty much all you need to know. So, all right, let's talk about the anniversary patch 11.0.5. So we've got a couple of changes on here that I wanted to point out. The biggest one is the Timewalking change. So right now, the way Timewalking works in retail is you are scaled down to the level of the Timewalking dungeon. So we just did Burning Crusade, so everybody got scaled down to level 30. All of their gear got scaled down to level 30 gear, which means maybe you're not getting quite as much of a benefit from something as you would have in the War Within or that you were getting in Dragonflight or whatever, depending on what level your character is. So what's going to happen is they're going to change that scaling. Instead of scaling the players down to the dungeon, they're going to scale the dungeon up to the player. So that'll treat it a lot more like normal scaling, where it just comes up and whatever your gear is and whatever you have, that's what you're going to be able to use and that you're going to be able to do. And it'll be pretty cool. Now, the reason that people are kind of upset with this, and I say upset, like upset, air quote, people like to use the gear from previous expansions because it all gets scaled down. So it doesn't matter if you have really good gear or really shitty gear, or excuse me, pardon my language, really crappy gear. You trying to keep this PG-13, folks. It'll scale down to level 30. So like people were using Azerite armor because it has the Azerite traits on it. Or maybe you have a really cool trinket that scales really well, or your tier sets or whatever. You can't do any of that anymore because it's now going to scale the dungeon up to your level, which means that you have to have your best gear from the War Within or whatever expansion you happen to be currently leveling in. So people were likening this to how it worked in Miss Pandaria Remix, and I think that's probably a good approximation of what they're going to be doing because we were scaling, the dungeons are scaling up to us. That gave us some weird interactions when you had like a level 70 in a dungeon with a level 10 and a level 10 or level 20, and the level 20 is just smoking everything in sight. Yeah, that did happen, but I think for the most part it's gonna be okay. We're gonna have fun with the new Timewalking. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm assuming that this is going to be for the new classic Timewalking that we're going to get for the anniversary, and then it'll go on from there. We'll see. I'm sure there's going to be some changes and some hot fixes after it goes live as people discover all the holes and flaws in it, as they always do. It's a live service game. It's hard to troubleshoot everything. I don't care if you have 10,000 QA employees. It's going to be hard to troubleshoot all the crazy things that WoW players are going to do. So, all right, let's... So there is a new Sylvanas Dark Ranger themed transmog set that will be available for the anniversary. And I know this is... No, I shouldn't say this is divisive. This could be divisive because I know some people really don't like Sylvanas, but a lot of people really do like Sylvanas. She's probably one of the most popular characters in World of Warcraft, next to, I'd say, Arthas, Thrall. That's pretty much it. Those are like your main three. Illidan, your main characters there. Sylvanas, definitely one of the most popular characters in World of Warcraft. So this is her Dark Ranger set. This is like the pre-Shadowlands gear set that she had. It looks really good. I'm probably never going to use this, but this is a lot of people who are going to just go crazy for this thing. So, that's great. And like I said, Sylvanas, she's a great character. I really hope she comes back for the next expansion, or maybe even at the end of this expansion. Maybe the final boss fight with Xal'atath is Sylvanas and Xal'atath getting into a fist fight. Who knows? Actually, that would be kind of cool. This set will be available with the anniversary. I don't know how we're going to get the set, if it's just a purchase, like a cosmetic purchase that you can get with the currency, or what that's going to be, but just know that it's going to be there. All right, just a quick one here. The Black Market Auction House is going to be at the anniversary event, so it'll just be right there with all the tents and all the festivities going on, so you'll be able to check that out. And then they're adding, if you remember at the end of Dragonflight, they had a bunch of limited time items that they added to a vendor outside of the Black Market Auction House. She was like right next to where the auctioneer was. So there was items that were only available limited time, so those will move on to the Black Market Auction House now. So you can try and get those items as you sit and watch for your tier 3 sets and your Longboy. So, yeah, check out the Black Market Auction House during the World of Warcraft 20th anniversary event coming with patch 11.0.5. All right. A couple of other things. The Judgment set for Paladins, they are giving a robeless option for that. So you can change your pants from like a kilt type pants to actual pants. Because they know that some people really like the Judgment set, but maybe they don't want to wear a skirt because they're afraid of, they're insecure in their masculinity and they don't want to wear a skirt. Or whatever the reason is. I personally love the Judgment skirt, but it's me. So you can get a new pants option for that instead of a skirt option. So that's cool for that. And then the Obsidian Worldbreaker mount, which is the Deathwing mount, is going to make a return for the 20th anniversary event. So yay, Deathwing mount. So that's pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to this patch. There are some rumors right now that it's going to show up on October 22nd, which would be awesome. But I don't know. Here's the thing. Depending on when it launches, the anniversary event is going to run into the holidays here in America. Well, I guess in Europe too. They have Christmas too. So the event is going to run into the holidays, and so I don't know if we're going to get patch. So we might get patch 10.0.5 in October, and then they might try and squeeze out a patch 11.0.7 in the beginning of December, which doesn't really make a lot of sense. Alternately, they would just push it out until the end of or the beginning of January after New Year's. I just can't imagine them releasing a 11.0.7 patch in the middle of the holiday season. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll know more as we get closer to the event. But yeah, I'm really curious about this one. And we could get. I mean, if you recall the 11 or 10.0.7 patch, the Forbidden Reach, Return to the Reach patch that we did, it was only like 6 weeks before we got the Aberrus 10.1.0 patch. So. Who knows? We could get a very shortened .7 patch, and then we'll move on to 11.1 in February, March, something like that. So who knows? We'll see. That's all for future us to deal with. So, all right. One other item that I wanted to mention, and I missed this one last week, but there are new WoW characters in Overwatch. So if you play Overwatch and you play WoW, and you want to play your play your Overwatch characters with a WoW skin. They've got a Sylvanas skin for Widowmaker. They've got a Lich King skin for Reinhardt, which is ridiculous. It looks great. They've got a Thrall skin for Zenyatta and a Diamond Magni Bronzebeard skin for Torbjorn. So, yeah, if you play Overwatch and you want to check those out, go do that. I think it's through the end of this month. So like I said, I missed that last week, but just little fun things, and that's what we're doing here. We're here for fun. So, all right, that's going to wrap up the news. Let's move on to the main topic of the week.
It's time for the main topic of the week.
So, Delves. Yes, Delves is the new primary feature endgame system of the War Within. Delves are pretty cool. If you haven't done a delve yet, I would definitely, first of all, what are you doing? Because you have to do a delve in the beginning of the leveling campaign for the War Within. So you've at least done Earthcrawler Mines. Or maybe you don't have the War Within yet, and you're like, should I get it? Yes, you should get the War Within and do some delves. Anyway, so delves are cool, and people like delves. Delves are little short, bite-sized pieces of content that you can do. You go in, you have one or two objectives, and then you have to kill the boss, and that's the whole thing. Now, when Blizzard sold this feature, they sold us on the idea of, oh, you only have 10 or 15 minutes to play WoW, you can go do a delve. That was a lie. Delves take longer than 10 to 15 minutes. They also said, oh, you want to do something solo content, you don't want to have to get in a group, you could do delves. Also a lie. So here's the thing. Well, we'll start with this. If you have a tank or a tank character or a character with a tank pet, delves are fun. They're a blast. If you don't, they're hard. If you're on a mage, if you're on a priest, if you're on a rogue, I did delves on my Havoc Demon Hunter and I got spanked. They're doable. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's definitely doable. But it's a lot harder on a DPS character that doesn't have a lot of tankiness than it is on a tank character. I haven't even tried on a healer. I'm not even going to bother with that because that just sounds awful. But yeah, so delves are pretty much built for tanks at this point. And I think it's partially a product of tanks are too powerful and do too much damage. If we had vanilla style tanks where you were really sturdy but you did no damage, it would be a different story. But we don't. We have damage-based tanks who do a lot of damage and who are sturdy as heck. I mean, on my Blood Death Knight, I could do pretty much anything in delves. As long as I'm careful and smart with how I do it and using my death strikes correctly, yeah, no problem. Like I said, Havoc Demon Hunter, I could not kill the last boss. Maybe if I had had 10 more deaths, I could have figured it out, but I only had 6. And I used all of them on that boss. So actually, I used 5 of them. And then when I got to the last death, I was like, nope, I'm out of here. bouncing. So, delves are a really good and fun piece of content for most people. And I think that Blizzard maybe needs to take another look at some of the other classes. Maybe some of those classes that really can't take a hit. I know that people have talked about, delves are great on a boomkin. It's like, okay, well, what about a mage? People say, delves are great on a demo lock. What about an AF lock? What if that's your character? You shouldn't have to change your spec in order to complete a delve. That's kind of where I'm coming from. You should be any of the 39. Do we have 39 specs now? I think it's 39. Any of the 39 specs in the game, you should be able to do a delve. Just period. Tier 11 delve. Now, granted, you're going to need gear if you want to do the higher level delves, but that's the whole point, right? We're trying to gear up. So if you are on a tank character and you are enjoying delves, great. I'm happy for you. That's what I'm doing. If you are on a DPS character and you are frustrated with delves, I hear you. I feel your plight, because they are not designed for solo squishy melee DPS or caster DPS. They're just not. So I feel like I don't know that there's a good answer to that problem, because any of the current answers, do a group, play a tank, I don't think that that's an appropriate answer. If the answer to delves are too hard for my caster DPS, if the answer to that is join a group, that's the wrong answer. Delves should be 100% solo activity that you can do just on your own. Now, I also mentioned about the timing of delves and how Blizzard said it would be 10 to 15 minutes. You basically have to wait for your cooldowns for the majority of delves. So if you have a big group, I was on a Demon Hunter, so thankfully I-Beam is only a 40-second cooldown, because I could take out most groups with I-Beam. You fell rush in, you I-Beam, you do all your thing, and it works. But then if there was another group, I had to wait because I had no cooldowns left. I have Metamorphosis, but that's a 2-minute cooldown now. So what do I do What do I do then? And it didn't make sense to go in. It doesn't make sense to go in with without your cooldowns up, because you have a death timer. So I feel like adding the death timer in was a mistake. Or I'm sorry, the death counter, not the death timer. The death counter was a mistake, because it prevents players from innovating and trying different things. Well, let me see what happens if I do this. Let me change my spec and do that. Oh, well, you just died. You only have 4 more deaths. Better not screw it up or you lose. That doesn't feel good. I hope that they can rethink the death counter in some capacity, or give us some other option. But as it stands right now, I feel like the difficulty for the high-end delves is too hard for the player base with our current gear. Going into Season 2, I think delves are going to be a lot of fun, and they're going to be a lot easier, because people are going to be doing more damage. They're going to be doing... We're just going to be hitting harder. We're going to have a better understanding of our hero talents and our characters. And honestly, the tuning and the streamlining of the delves that's going to take place over the rest of the season, I think will really help in Season 2 for delves. So, right off the bat, I think delves missed the mark on the difficulty. I feel like it's good to have difficult content, but you need to make it equally difficult for all players. You shouldn't have content that feels great if you're a tank, but feels terrible if you're a caster. So that's kind of I don't want to say strike one, but it's kind of a strike one for delves. Okay, so I talked about a little bit earlier, I talked about the gearing in delves and how you have the coffer keys. And at first I was like, well, this coffer key thing is dumb, because you only get 4 loot a week, and I already have essentially outlived the usefulness of the champion gear in delves. Now, yeah, I could still get some different trinkets and maybe a different set of stats. Maybe I can get stats that's better for frost than it is for blood, things like that. Sure, I can do all that. But as it stands right now, I have, I think I have 6 coffer keys left, and I don't really need anything. I have 2 veteran pieces, which are my helm and shoulders, the ones that I got from the resonance crystals. That's it. Everything else is champion or hero. So do I need to get the gear from the Bountiful Delve? Not really. Yeah, it's kind of unnecessary. So all of my whining and crying about the coffer keys and Blizzard, you got to rethink this. No, it's pretty much a moot point for me at this state in the game. Now for my alts, yeah, I'm gonna want more gear. But as long as I'm doing the world quests every week or the world content every week, I'll be getting my 4 coffer keys. You can build coffer keys from doing world quests as well. You get those fragments, and then you'll be able to purchase coffer keys with the undercoins eventually. I forget how far in the season it is to get that, but you will eventually be able to purchase coffer keys. So I think realistically, it doesn't really matter. Maybe at some point they'll make that coffer keys are warbound, so you can send them to your alts. But yeah, I think the gearing in delves. And so here's the thing: they buffed up the gear that delves drop to make it more appealing for Mythic Plusers and for Raiders. So if you go, well, I could get a champion piece of gear or a 603 champion from the end of the delve, and then a 616 hero in the vault. That's better than a 5 Mythic Plus. So if you're doing low level Mythic Plus, you're better off doing delves for gear. Take your Mythic Plus group and go run 8 delves. You'll get better gear. And everybody gets a piece of gear at the end, as long as it's a bountiful delve and you have a key. So if you run 8 Mythic Plus dungeons, you might get 2 pieces of gear, maybe 3 if you're lucky. Yeah. So they're definitely buffed up, or they bumped up the item reward for delves, which I think is good because they're trying to encourage people to use the new system. But it definitely created a delve rush in the beginning of the expansion, that people were running delves for the first 2 weeks of the season that are probably not going to run them anymore, especially the people who are moving up into the higher level Mythic Plus. If you're doing 7s and above and you're getting hero pieces in your Mythic Plus runs, you're not doing delves anymore. Maybe you do a couple here and there, but it's really not worth your time. You get fewer Ruined Harbinger crests. You get champion level gear. It just doesn't make any sense from a player standpoint. Now, I don't think that delves were built to be an everyone type thing. I think that they were specifically built to be a people like me, people who are kind of in this leveling band of, hey, here's the content I could do, but I'm about to get out of this leveling band if I get into heroic raids. So, and that's just me. And in Dragonflight, I wasn't doing any heroic raids, or I did in season 1, but I didn't after that. And so I guess, it's there to fill in the gaps, or for people who don't want to raid or don't want to do Mythic Plus at all because they hate it. It's so toxic going in with these groups of people and they're so mean, and I get that. I do, because I've had so many Mythic Plus runs where I just stopped and I was like, I'm done with WoW for the day, because that group was too toxic. They were mean. They were nasty. I hate all of them. So I think from that standpoint, yeah, the delves are a good alternative, but as far as a complement to the other endgame components like Mythic Plus and Raid, I don't really think it fits into that. So I think I hesitate to say it, but it's a lesser endgame pillar than the others. You don't even have any sort of so right now for raiders, if you kill the last boss on heroic, you get an achievement that allows you to purchase allows you to get a free heroic tier piece. Same thing if you get 2,000 dungeon score. Basically, if you get your KSM, you get that free piece. You only get it once. But it's if you get AOTC for raid, if you get KSM for dungeons, and I forget what the PvP one is. I think it's Gladiator. I don't know. I don't PvP anymore. I was talking on the Discord earlier today about I don't have the PvP gene in me anymore. I'm too slow. I'm too old. I'm too slow. I can't do it. Anyway, so delves is not part of that. So there's no like if you say, kill Zekfir on a tier 11 delve and you'll get this you get this achievement as well. No, you don't get that. You only get it for those other 3 components, which to me says delves aren't really actually end game content. They're like low end game content. So I don't know. I feel like it's almost like an apologetic implementation that Blizzard has done. They're like, here's delves and the gear is kind of okay. And you're gonna, I don't know. I'm really hoping that Blizzard can kind of clean up some of the things that are in delves currently and make them feel a little bit more, I don't know. You should feel like you're doing the WoW endgame if you're doing delves. That should feel like an endgame progression. And maybe that means more delve tiers. Maybe that means you get better gear from delves. I don't know. But I think there's a hesitation on Blizzard's part to give too much too fast, because if you give players hero gear in delves and it turns out to be super easy, then everybody's going to go do that. And then they've created a new dynamic that they didn't intend to do. So I understand why they're being a little cagey about it. But, long term, I think that delves could be an equal pillar to Mythic Plus and Raid. I think if you bump up the difficulty of delves, so right now we have the bountiful delves and then we have the just regular delves. And if you run 8 regular delves, you'll get no loot, but you'll get Great Vault credit. So if instead of doing that, and I don't know, I don't actually have an idea of what I think that they should do, because quite honestly, I think that this is a bigger problem than just delves. But give some sort of rating for delves. I don't really like that idea at all, because then it's just going to get super competitive like it is with Mythic Plus. I don't know. There's no good answer right now. I think ultimately we're just going to have to wait and see. I think delves, to kind of cover the topic here, I think delves are a success. I don't consider them a failure. I think that certain components of them missed the mark. I think if you're a mage, I think if you really like doing things solo and you don't want to have to get into a group, if you don't want to play a tank class, I think all of those things make delves kind of a sour taste in their in players' mouths, or left a sour taste in players' mouth. It's doable on all of those different classes and specs and things and roles. It's just a lot harder than it is on a tank. On a tank, I can go in and face roll it, honestly, for the most part. And yeah, I have to watch out for some mechanics, but I can cheese so many things with my self-healing and my sturdiness, my tank cooldowns. Yeah, it's not really fair. So I would say delves are a success, but with a caveat of they need to clean up these things and make them a little bit more accessible to players and make them a little bit more useful for people who are doing end game content. They should not be an afterthought for people who are raiding and doing Mythic Plus, but I also don't feel like they should feel like a requirement if you're doing those things. It's a very difficult balance, and I think that they're being smart with doing it small, and then maybe they can grow it from there, like they've done with Mythic Plus recently, or maybe not. Maybe they don't grow it. I don't know. We'll have to see. Mythic Plus has undergone many iterations since it was released in Legion, and I'm pretty sure that delves will do the same. One thing that I found out yesterday was there's no way to see what delves or how many delves you've run. So for dungeons, we have or for Mythic Plus, it keeps track of you ran this keystone and it was this dungeon and it was this level, and it keeps track of all that, and it doesn't do that for delves. So when I was looking at the Great Vault and it said you have this many tier 8 delves, and then your last item in the world row is tier 1 because it was from World Quest. And I was like, well, how many tier 8s do I need to do? And I couldn't get an answer on that because there isn't one available. You just have to keep doing them until you get it, which I don't like that. I think you should give players the ability to say, hey, I need to do 2 more tier 8 delves, and then I'll get my 3rd Great Vault slot. I think that would be a good way to do it, even if it's just a number. You don't have to tell me which delve I ran. I don't think that really matters. And I think the delves themselves, ultimately, they're all kind of generic. Some of them feel a little bit better than others, but I don't really think there's any delve that I'm like, this one's the good one and this other one's the bad one. Yeah, some of the other underwater ones kind of stink, but overall, I really like all of them. They're all a lot of fun. I'm having fun with the content. I will at some point be leveling up my Shadow Priest, so we'll see if I still love the content once I get that character into some delves. But yeah, for the most part, I think delves are a success, and I hope Blizzard continues to iterate on them in a good and positive way, and really with the focus on this is actual endgame content and not this is really just scenarios part 2. So I guess we'll see. Hopefully in season 2 we will see some updates to delves, and we'll revisit this conversation at that point. So all right, that's going to wrap up our show for today. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to get on this microphone and talk to you, and I just, like I've said before, I'm having so much fun and really, really enjoying it. I've gotten to talk to quite a few people and met some new people and just having a good time. If you want to get hold of me directly, you can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Denethar. You can also catch me streaming on Twitch. I'm Denethar01 occasionally. I don't do too much streaming. Or you can check out my YouTube channel, which is at Denethar01 as well. All of the Azeroth United links are going to be in our link tree, which is linktr.ee/Azeroth United. I'll put the link tree in the show notes as well, so you can check that out. Come on over and join our Discord server. We've got a lot of conversation going on over there. It's we're trying to build it up. There's not a ton of people on there, but we're slowly working it up. So yeah, jump on by and you can check that out. We're going to be launching our Patreon, so anybody who's interested in throwing me a couple bucks to help out the show, like I've said in the past, I'm not trying to actually make money on this, but I am spending money on it for the podcast hosting and the different fees I have for a couple different things. So it's not much, and I'm not asking you to pay my rents or anything. You want to essentially buy me a beer, give me a couple bucks, that'd be great. I will put the link to the Patreon in the show notes as well. We're going to start off small with the Patreon, but I've got some things that we're going to be adding to it later as we get some more people into the Discord and a couple of things going. So keep an eye out for that. But for now, basically what we're going to do is we're going to have a $1 patron, which is basically just, hey, I really like your show. Here's $1. I'll give you $1 a month. That's all it takes. And then there will be a $3 patron tier, and that will get you special access in Discord to the patron channel. We'll get you a special category in Discord, and I'll get you a call out on the show. So anytime we mention the patrons and thank our patrons, that'll be the $3 membership. So if you're interested in any of those, or if you have any questions about the Patreon or just in general, and like I said, I'm not trying to make money off of people. I'm just really trying to balance some of the costs on this. It does add up. So this is a hobby, and it's something that I'm doing for fun. And really, more than anything, I just want to kind of connect with people who enjoy the show and enjoy the content. And Patreon's a really good way to do that. So if you're interested in that, I will have the link in the show notes, but it's just patreon.com/Azeroth United. So go ahead and check that out. And like I said, if you're interested, great, thank you. And if not, Azeroth United will always be free. I'm going to steal that one from the For Azeroth podcast, but Azeroth United will always be free. There is no part of me that wants to put ads in the show. I know a lot of podcasts have been doing that recently, putting in ads, and I get that. And I really just don't feel like that's something that I want to do. So, yeah, if you want to help me out, great. If not, just continue to enjoy the podcast and yeah, have fun. So there you go. All right, that's like I said, that'll wrap it up for our show. Thank you again so much for listening and for watching. Remember to be good to each other out there. It's a real person on the other side of that keyboard, and it doesn't matter if they don't know the Mythic Plus routes, or if all they're doing is delves and you're just frustrated with them for some bizarre reason. Just be nice. Be nice to your fellow people, and smile and be good to each other. So, all right, take care. I love you all, and I'll see you in Azeroth.